Good evening, afternoon, morning of the interwebs, whenever you're watching this. Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler. And this will have been published before the Canadian election on April 28, but I'm going to release it tonight, Saturday, on the eve of the Canadian election, because there's no point holding on to potential gold that might have an impact on the outcome of the election until after the election. We're going to publish this, and I'll implore everybody to share it away as liberally as possible, pun intended, between now and Monday, October 28th, 6 o'clock. I don't know what time voting ends, but get out there and vote, people. Vote like the future of Canada depends on it, because it does. Even if you're not particularly enthralled with your candidates and your options, get out there and exercise your right to vote. There's an old expression, Mark Twain said, if voting did something, they wouldn't let you do it. No, if voting had an impact, if voting were useful, they wouldn't let you do it. Bada bing, bada boom. Reality is, however, every now and again, voting actually works and voting actually achieves something. There have been a couple of clips going viral of, I don't know if you call them hecklers, protesters at Carney rallies and Poilievre rallies. Those are the only two candidates now basically holding rallies. Maxime Bernier has been doing what I think Pierre Poilievre should have been doing for a long time, which is actual meaningful podcasts. I shouldn't minimize the podcast Pierre Poilievre did, but, you know, big American podcasts, because even if Americans can't vote, having the big spotlight of international big players looking at Canadian politics is good for everybody. But set that aside, you can't undo what has already been done. And Pierre Poilievre didn't go on with Gadsad, didn't go on with Tucker Carlson, if that were an option, didn't go on with Joe Rogan, if that were an option. And he did a couple of modest softball podcasts in Canada. But with that being said, there were a couple of incidents, call them hecklers, call them trolls, whatever, at both a Mark J. Carney, CBDC Carney, Carnage Carney, whatever you want to call them, and Pierre Poilievre rallies. And I've got the kid that did it, or at least the kid that did two of them. There were other hecklers as well. His name is Sean Levy. Now I forgot exactly which way to pronounce it, but it doesn't really matter, because he's going to come on and tell us who he is, what he's doing, and walk us through the two clips. Sean,
how's it going? It's a pleasure to be on. Sean Levy.
Sean Levy. Okay. Well, because it's always either there's Eugene. I think Eugene Levy. He goes by Levy. Doesn't really matter. Yeah. Sean, I know nothing about you other than our 30 seconds before bringing you on here.
Sure. I'll introduce myself.
Go for it.
My name is Sean Levy. I'm a 17-year-old young man from Saskatchewan, Saskatoon. I am coming here to kind of spread the word of the Uniparty of Canada. They're both oppressive tyrants, to be completely transparent. And sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. This is my first time here.
Let me get this. I'm going to just pry. 17 years old.
17 years old. I'm a big political guy. Raised in a political house.
Yeah. So when do you decide that you're getting into politics, or that you got political?
The Freedom Convoy. Yeah, it was big. I remember a story. I'll share a story. I was about 12 years old, maybe 13, at the height of COVID, when the lockdowns were going and everything, vaccine mandates. Well, moral of the story, I never got vaccinated. And there was a rink that me and my buddies used to go to for lunch, right, at school. And the people in charge of the rink didn't let me in. So I had to go and eat lunch by myself at 13 years old, because I didn't take a vaccine against COVID-19, the lab leak.
Yeah, I refuse to call it a vaccine. We can now call it a jab. We can now call it a therapeutic, because that at least now is like accepted by the censorship overlords. But it's a jab, and it's an experimental one that I think did more harm than good, in my humble opinion, for everybody who wants to judge. So that's it's an interesting thing. That is a particularly, traumatizing, or at least it is a defining moment. Like, my wife, when we decided we were leaving Quebec, it was because we went to our daughter's play. She's about a little younger than you, but and then they were doing the play wearing face masks, and my wife's like, "This is an insane asylum.
It's oppressive. It's disgusting, and I won't stand for it anymore. And I'm here to fight. I'm here to fight for something great."
Let me ask you this: so you're from Saskatoon, you said?
Absolutely, yeah.
Born and raised?
Small acreage. Yeah.
Small Acreage is the name of the town.
No, that's just where I live, right
Okay.
outside, in the middle of Saskatoon, in a place called Aberdeen.
May I ask what your parents do?
My father is a landscaper, and my mom is a stay-at-home mom. She
How many,
kind of runs the businesses in the office,
how many siblings do you have?
2 sisters. One is 13, 14, and the other is 10.
And you are born, raised Canadian. Your parents, are they Canadian as well?
I am a 16th generation Canadian, as Anglo-Saxon as you can get.
Shut up. 16 generations. You can trace your family back in Canada.
We founded this place. Yep. Yeah.
That's wild. Well, now the name Levy, then, where did you get? I mean, that is typically, at least in my milieu, it's European, but
we came from we're settlers from Europe. I don't know the whole story. I just know we're 16th generation.
That's so flipping wild that you can go back that far. I mean, in our family, we go back 3 generations because everyone got wiped out in the 30s in Germany or Poland. But that it's always fascinating me that people can actually trace their history back in Canada to that degree. Yeah. Are your parents political?
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah. Okay, and then the question is, I presume that they're conservative-ish, or are they even more libertarian?
No, politically homeless. Nothing.
As of when, though, have they been politically homeless? You grew up, I want to say, like you grew up presumably in a conservative family or conservative supporting where they supported, I think I can say Harper. I can't even go Mulrooney. I presume they were sort of and they became politically homeless because this is relevant.
My dad, he voted PPC in 2017, so he's one of the he doesn't like it. Doesn't work. The 2-party system in Canada, it's not meant to work. It's failed. Look where we are now.
He voted PPC like he was the one in 2017.
Yeah, he was like the 1 or 2 guys that voted for him.
That's wild. Okay, I mean that. So Saskatoon. This is for anybody who doesn't know. I could maybe show a map. I'm not sure that'll be useful, but this is what would be called small town Canada, and I don't mean that in any derogatory manner. And it's what the elites on the coast would refer to as flyover Canada. Yeah. What's life like in Saskatoon?
It's a small population. It's like Gotham City, if I could put it any better. I can't really put it any better. The natives, I hate to be racist, but they've kind of taken over. A huge fentanyl crisis. You walk down the park, you got police officers putting Narcan on homeless guys overdosing on fentanyl. It's horrible because it is a beautiful city, and the fentanyl has really ruined it. It's disgusting, and it's shameful.
How I say, like, how has it evolved over time? You're barely old enough to have evolved for it to have evolved, but has it gotten worse in the last? I mean, 5 years of your memory now is going to be pretty distinct.
Yeah.
Since COVID, has it gotten exponentially worse?
Well, it's funny because I was pretty much born into tyranny. I've never held an AR-15 before. Everything's always been expensive. But yeah, the last 5 years, it's definitely gotten worse. The hosing, it's gotten worse. The fentanyl definitely gotten worse. People don't have hope, and that's important to a society to run smoothly. Is the populace have hope, right? And hope is lost in where I'm from.
I was going to say I wasn't going to show a map, but I need to show the Americans as to where exactly Saskatoon is, because you can't really have more middle Canada than Saskatoon.
Yeah, the boonies.
It's flat. It's flat as an ocean bed.
Brutal. It's flat as an ocean.
Yeah, because where it starts getting good is Calgary, where you start driving into the Rockies, and then So I've talked about this on multiple occasions. I'm originally from Montreal.
Yep.
We've always had not as much of a native indigenous problem, but the amount or the rate of homelessness and drug addiction it's been disparately impacting the natives for as long as I can remember. And I remember like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's gotten exponentially worse, but so has homelessness at large. Has it gotten worse in Saskatoon as well?
Oh yeah, 100%. They dropped the vagrancy laws, I don't know, in the 90s. Now they just run free, shooting up heroin, whatever they're shooting up. Kids are playing, there's needles. I was at the mall the other day with a couple buddies, and we saw a homeless guy just folding over, overdosing on what I presume to be fentanyl in the middle of a mall where young women, young kids, they walk by and they have to see this. Why do we have to see this? in a Western society.
It's where I grew up in Westmount, Lower Westmount. Just recently, an Indigenous guy died in the Alexis Neon. It's this shopping center. Just died. You know, they're always on the bottom where the metro station is, and it's just. And then they opened up a safe injection site about 1.5 kilometers from where I used to live. It's insane. So how do you? Are you in school? Are you in university?
I'm actually a dropout. I'm out of that. It's all distraction to me.
Well, I'm not gonna encourage that, nor am I gonna lecture you. But when did you drop out?
So I'll give you the story. So in high school, I've always been an outspoken person. I like to question narratives, kind of push limits, see where people are at, right? And my grade 9 year, pretty basic, kind of just getting to meet people, you know what I mean? Kind of insecure. I was a late bloomer, so I didn't hit puberty till about grade 10. And in grade 10, that's when I was really politically active, and I really questioned these liberal teachers. And I remember one account, we had a First Nations teacher trying to white shame us, and I said no. I stood up and I said no. I questioned her, I probed, and she leaves the classroom crying. I didn't mean to do it in any disrespectful manner. And we have a transgender person in that class as well, and she or he or whatever you want to call him stands up and starts speaking. And we kind of go back and forth. Then he leaves crying. And then the principal comes, grabs me, drags me to the office, and puts me into the counselor's office and tells me that I need help. That's when I really kind of...
You'll have to forgive me. I'm going to continually make the jokes as to how young you are. But back in grade 10, how long ago was this? 2 years?
No, I'm grade 11. I did online school after that as well. So I did online school for half a semester just to work full time and make some money, get some crypto.
So this was last year that was your last year, or you just recently stopped going to school?
So I recently stopped going into person school about a year ago at the end of grade 10. And now I've moved into grade 11. I did a semester of online school, and then I kind of just dropped it. Maybe it's not smart. Maybe it's smart. Who knows? We'll see where my life takes me. But I like to just go with the wind.
No, well, let's look. Again, I will neither encourage.
No one does. Don't worry.
No, I'm not encouraging, not lecturing. So, you've gotten political, you've gotten vocal. You're wearing the blacked out version of that's a Make America Great Again hat, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So hold on one second. Let me just get mine over here. Oh, what's this little thing here? Every now and again, I actually just put it on this one. Yeah, it's not an authentic one, but so you've gotten political as of when?
I've always been political. I like to question the narrative. Is the best way I could put it.
Well, now that we're gonna segue our way into the you chasing down the rallies and then heckling. So I mean, first of all, are you doing this as I guess the election is going to be over now, effectively. How many rallies did you get to?
Just 2.
Okay, so the 2 at which you heckled and from which you were subsequently expelled.
Yeah, I got a story for the Liberal one, man. It's gonna blow your mind.
Well, let me play the video. It's gonna be loud, people, but let me play the video because it's well worth the watch. We're gonna maximize this, and I'll just play it. This is number 1. This is Pierre Poilievre. More recently than the Carney one. The Carney one comes in 20 seconds here.
Yeah. He wants us to forget about the lost
51st state! You won't safety immigration invasion! We can only build somebody home! Save us! You will not save us! You will not save us!
I love the guy looking at the camera.
Please, freedom! Freedom! Fight for freedom! Fight for freedom!
And then this is the Liberal one.
And Churchill described it as the hinge of fate. That was the moment. It was the hinge of fate.
I can't stand this man's
photograph
voice.
Wef whore.
Was told. Not 50. Oh, that's
At least
that's misguided. That's misguided. That's all right.
Okay.
It's all right. It's all right.
We'll pause it there. I can't listen to that guy anymore. So let me ask you the 2 questions. First of all, comparing the 2 rallies, in terms of energy size, not that it matters, because I really don't think it matters at all, but what were they like comparatively?
Well, the Liberal ones, it was a bunch of old boomers who hated each other. quite frankly. And the conservative one is a lot more positive. I tend to lean more conservative. I actually have matching beliefs as Pierre. I just think Canada's too far gone down the shitter since the last Liberal decade. But the conservative one was definitely more chill, I guess you could say, like hope. You know what I mean? Better energy.
Well, no, it's interesting you mentioned that guy who went famous, and the Brampton boomer guy, the guy giving the two middle fingers.
Yeah.
So by and large, and I'm not trying to be politically incorrect, but old, white, and bitter.
They
at
just
the Carney.
Yeah, it was it's funny because those people absolutely adored me and my buddy because we were the only young guys there, right? We had our little Canada Strong sign that we made at home. They loved that. People were coming up to handshake us like we were celebrities, and coming up to us, handshakes, conversations. Trump's a fascist. We played the part real good. You know, Trump's a fascist. We got to escape from the tyrant's grip, or whatever you want to say. But yeah, we played the role perfectly, and they fell hook, line, and sinker. It was great. It's great.
But so they are like, this is what people in America are flabbergasted. People in Canada are telling me, Viva, you don't know how TDS Canada is. I do, but they're full blown political retardation in terms of their being animated by nothing other than a hatred of Trump. I'm not understating the degree of it.
They are. I'm glad you said retardation because that's my favorite word. They are belligerent.
Political retardation. It's a severe condition.
Yeah, they are belligerent, violent idiots. To be honest, I was assaulted there, and I'm actually pressing charges on the man that assaulted me. I got mobbed the second we put 51st State up. I was pushed in the back. Cuss words were thrown. Punches were thrown. And all of a sudden, a guy, as we're peacefully leaving, a guy comes from behind with a Taylor Swift shirt on and grabs me in a chokehold and walks me through the crowd. A random man, a deranged liberal, comes and attacks me. And he will be facing charges. Are
you joking about the Taylor Swift shirt?
100%. I am not joking at all.
Did you get that on video?
Oh, yeah, we got it all on video. I could send you the link if you'd like.
Oh, yes. And I might just add that to the end of this stream so that this interview. I'm gonna end this interview with that. So guys, you'll want to watch that. No, you could do it afterwards. So
sure.
The dude is actually wearing a Taylor Swift shirt at a Mark Carney rally.
Yeah.
Okay. And then are there a substantial amount of people at the Carney rallies? Because they do look sizable.
Yeah, I was surprised. And I got a funny story. While we were waiting in line, waiting to enter the WEF Whores little parade, we were waiting in line, and an ambulance pulls up. And you know how Carney, I think he alluded to the fentanyl crisis being a small leap. I don't remember his exact words for it, but it wasn't a huge major problem in Canada. It's along the lines of that. And as we were waiting, the ambulance comes up, and two police officers come walking through the line with a native man overdosing on fentanyl with Narcan and drool coming from his mouth. And we all just watch him walk down the line. The funniest thing ever. Hilarious. Comedy really does write itself. It was great.
They say like fate loves irony, or irony has a sense of humor. It's sick and sad. But the problem is this. So at the Carney rallies, it's what it looks like. It's what we've been seeing in terms of the Brampton boomer and a bunch of very, very angry people.
Yeah.
You get into the Pierre Poilievre rally and you scream 51st State, fight for freedom. I don't even want to load my question with infusing it with my own beliefs. I think you probably know how I feel, but what's your view on Pierre Poilievre and the so-called Conservative Party?
I don't think he's conservative enough. I honestly think Canada's failed. Our system has failed. Look where it's brought us. It's not any party, either party, whatever. It's the system that's in place to allow hosing to double over a decade, to allow violent crime to shoot up, to allow, I actually have stats here, to allow, so in 2015, before the mass weapon ban, the crime was at 27.3 per 100,000 for weapons, right? And we're now sitting at 35.7, per 100,000. So it's the whole system has failed. We don't hold a constitution. We hold toilet paper that can be waived with an emergency act. All I want is an axiomatic constitution where we have inalienable rights that shall not be infringed upon, and we can live in peace and pursue happiness. That's all I ask for.
Well, it's a terrible thing because I mean, I kind of agree with you. I feel the same way in terms of how far gone Canada is in terms of even the expectation of the Conservatives. And my issue with Pierre's or the Conservative Party, what they said about what's her face, Christine Anderson. He said, she's hatred and whatever. Go home. They voted unanimously for the conversion therapy ban. Yeah. They were barely against Bill C-10 or C-11, whatever it was at the time, saying they'll repeal it if it gets passed. And I was like, Aaron O'Toole, why don't you just fight the censorship? And that's like being passed off as the savior of Canada. I mean, what are the alternatives? You're a young man. I don't know that you're even eligible to vote. Are you eligible? You're not. It's 19 years old in Canada.
I'm only 17.
What? So you can't even vote. Hypothetically, you could vote. I presume you would vote for the PPC?
No, I would go to the ballot and I would write 51st state right over top of all of them. Cross them all out in 51st state.
What is the sentiment? I mean, you might be in your own ideological political silo in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, fly over Canada. Would they like to be a 51st state?
No. The TDS, they think Trump being a bad guy is just verbatim. I mean, the mass propaganda, it just spews bullshit over Trump, saying he's the villain, and eventually it seeps into the pores of everyone. And now it's just verbatim that Trump's the bad guy and America's the villain and they're fascist and he's running it in a dictatorial manner. And it's
well, so if I've been taking flack for criticizing Pierre's tactics, but do you think he might be actually having a net gain by tacking into the TDS syndrome and trying to get, I don't know, middle ground voters to come over to the Conservatives?
I don't have an opinion on that. I don't like any of them, Pierre nor Mark Carney. Mark Carney is obviously the worst of the two, but pandering Pierre. He won't stop migration. He'll build more homes, but will import the same amount of people, a little bit less, whatever he proposes, 250,000 or something. The problem isn't the hosing; it's the population we're letting in. I got a stat for you. I'm sure you might. I like to deal in reality, so I got a stat. It's the in the last year in Canada, 97.6% of our population's growth has been migration.
No, dude, I'll tell you, the majority of anyone watching this now is going to know that because I've been talking about that one for a while as well. Yeah. I just posted the numbers earlier today from 2023, which was like 110,000 of the people who became permanent residents or immigrants in 2023. 110,000 were India, and the top 5 countries are India, Pakistan, Philippines. I mean, it's insane. And the 10th on the list, took in 10,000, was America. You had Eritrea there. You had, I say, countries with differing values to begin with. But it was in response to the CBC article, which was saying how it was racist to say that when there were protesters saying, we're being replaced by Indians. I was like, 110,000. It's the vast majority of immigrants are from India, China, Pakistan, very, very friendly countries. At least to our interests. It's insanity. What's it like in the central part of Canada? Because Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, they barely resemble Canadian cities anymore. What's it like where you are?
Absolutely brutal. There's no more white people working in grocery stores. There's no more white people working any minimum wage job. There's no more white people working in any bank, in any really establishment other than the blue collar world, which I tend to see a lot more white people. But the absolute state of Canada is we are being replaced. And if you deny that, then you're blind. There's no other way to put it.
It is amazing because people, they deny it, but then they also admit it at the same time where they say we're lacking. Trudeau basically said it. We got to tamp down on this because we're letting in unskilled labor that is draining the system. He did that until, Trump came in and then he opened up the borders again. And it's a fact, whether or not you want to call it a replacement or just what I call it, basically human trafficking, exploiting, low-skilled immigrants. Say, hey, come on in, we'll exploit you for work. But meanwhile, unemployment where you are, is it?
None of my friends get jobs. None of them. Not one young teenager, young man looking to start his career will be able to get a job. It's disgusting because the government, I mean, they subsidize their wage, right? They pay, what is that, 60%, I think it is. I don't remember the exact percentage of it.
It's something that people don't know. They bring them in, exploit them for low paying jobs, and then subsidize the wages, so that basically they say like it's the jobs same thing in America, by the way. Like they literally say, who's going to pick the fruits and the vegetables? Who's going to clean your toilets? They literally say this because they exploit them for cheap labor, and thus put up the local population out of work and say, well, they don't want the jobs anyhow. But they don't want the jobs because you might have to have some reasonable competitive wages if you weren't exploiting low-skilled foreigners, immigrants, to do it. So what's your plan? I mean, you go to these 2 rallies, you get a moment. There's no more rallies to attend now. What's your plan on remaining involved in getting into politics?
I will push for 51st state until it becomes reality, and I'll promise that I won't stop until it's reality.
Well, how about if there is discussion that America is number 10 on the list of immigrants into new arrivals into Canada.
Yeah.
What if Trump says, anybody who wants to come down, we'll open our borders for those who want to espouse American values and come to America? Would you ever think of moving to America?
Then I'm signing up and I'm moving down there. Boise, Idaho, here I come. I want an AR-15.
The southernmost, or I say the northernmost state that borders Canada where you are is Idaho.
Yeah.
I gotta go to Idaho. Where was Napoleon Dynamite was filmed in Idaho?
I have no idea.
It was either Idaho or Iowa. I always it was Idaho.
Yeah.
Sean, what is your social media handle? I know we're going to see it on the Twitter, but where can people find you?
BLACLJK.
BLACLJK.
Absolutely.
What does that possibly mean?
It was an account that I made when I was just an account I had, and then I verified it, and I didn't really want to spend $90 more to verify it again, so I just ran with it.
I'm going to show it right now, and then after that, what I'm going to do is finish with the other video that you BLACLJK. Dude, what the blacklish? Dude, so it was my only critique when you had that moment, the one with Carney. I would have asked something about his offshore bank accounts, or at least BlackRock's offshore, investing in dirty energy, or moving his BlackRock to America. Those would have been the 3 I would. There was another one who went viral, said something about Epstein's Island. I was like, that's sort of missing the opportunity just a little bit, because it should be something that's objectively true. And but anyway, bottom line, it was interesting when you got booted from the Pierre rally. What was the crowd like? They looked disappointed.
I got punched through there. I walked through. I said, I love you all. Please fight for freedom, peace, freedom. I love you all. Some guy punches me through. I get fingers. They're all brainwashed by the media, and it's two sides to the same coin, two wings to the same bird. Canada's failed, and the only way through and the only way forward is the 51st state.
Or seceding, man. I tell you, if the Liberals, I was on with Matt Gaetz yesterday on his show, and I said, like, if the Liberals win, and if they win a majority, you're going to see Alberta move to separate. Probably, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba move to join the U.S. Quebec move to separate, and nobody wants the Liberals, and yet they seem to be in the lead.
Sean, I don't know how we're going to get there, but we're going to get there. I can promise you guys that.
Dude, I know the chat and the comment section. I'm fairly certain they're going to like you because you are the youth that they want to see in Canada and America. But I'm going to bring you out of the screen and say my proper goodbye. But stick around. We'll say our proper goodbyes. Sean, thank you very much, man. That was great. What did I just say? Stop screen here. I'm going to remove him for 1 second. I'm going to say, everybody, that is Sean. And get out there and vote on Monday. I'm not telling you don't vote if you're liberal. Get out there and vote. And even if it's to spoil your ballot, get out there and vote, because if you don't vote, you can't say that. I say, if you didn't vote, you don't get to complain. Even if it's just to go there and spoil your ballot, at least you then get to complain. So that is the breaking news of the hecklers at both the Carney rally and the Poilievre rally. And that's the state of politics, people. Now you know your vlog. Peace out.
The Japanese had just bombed Pearl Harbor, and the world's fate hung in the balance. And Churchill described it as the hinge of fate. That was the moment. It was the hinge of fate. Now, that photograph
51st state. We don't believe you. Save us, Trump. Don't listen to him. Don't listen. Save us, Trump. Hey, we want Trump. We want Trump.
Point is, this is a long story. It's a longer story. Anyway, the point is, point is, this is a long story. It's a longer story. Anyway, the point is.